What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today is the third video in my series of should you play each class in the Burning Crusade Classic, with Burning Crusade on the horizon, coming probably within the next 2.5 to 3 months. I'm breaking down every single class and what changes for that class moving from vanilla into TBC. So for today's video, we're going to be focusing on the warrior, right? We're going to cover exactly what changed coming from vanilla into TBC, how each spec performs in PvE and PvP, the pros and cons, and the overall feel of playing warrior in TBC. So to start off, I'm going to start reading off my list here. I wrote everything out. What changed from vanilla to TBC for warriors, right? TBC adjusted warriors in pretty big ways. The balance, the itemization, and the mechanics of how the class plays. You have rage normalization. This means no more infinite rage from overgearing. Your damage, rage scaling flattened, and it's more consistent but less explosive, meaning, you know, your massive crits from your white hits are not feeding more and more rage, which is feeding more and more damage. Basically, everything that made warriors super overpowered in vanilla kind of got fixed in TBC, but don't worry because warriors are not really bad in TBC either. They have some new abilities like Spell Reflect, which is a massive PvP ability, Intervene, so you can intercept damage meant for allies, right? You can, basically it's a charge that you can use targeted on one of your allies to charge to them and maybe intercept something coming in. And you have Commanding Shout, which is a massive health pool buff. The itemization improvements. Tanking gear now includes defensive stats like defense, avoidance, stamina, instead of just random junk stats that are on the gear in vanilla. Dual wield DPS has been balanced. Dual wield is smoother, and hit rating is a lot more accessible in TBC. There are now, though, some competition for tank spots, so Paladins and Druids are now extremely viable in the Burning Crusade. Warrior is not the only option anymore, so keep that in mind. Warrior tanking is still very good, but you can also tank on Paladins and Druids, so you're not absolutely needed as a tank anymore. And we have the introduction of arenas, right? The PvP balance has shifted here. Burst setups and coordination matter much more moving into the Burning Crusade. So overall, warriors lost a bit of their vanilla dominance, but remain top tier in the right hands, and especially for a good warrior player. For the next part of this video, we're going to focus on prot warriors, the tank spec, right? Let's talk about PvE tanking. It's still an excellent tank. Warriors are still great tanks in the Burning Crusade. You have Shield Slam and Revenge, which are solid for threat generation. You are absolutely the best at boss tanking due to your control and your active mitigation. You have strong cooldowns like Shield Wall and Last Stand. You have smooth threat on single targets, but you struggle a little bit with AoE versus Paladins especially, right? Paladins are spamming Consecrate. They have tons of AoE threat, but for single targets, warriors just absolutely dominate. They're really good in 10-mans and 25-mans, so they're not only needed in a specific type of raid. As for prot warriors in PvP, though, this is very niche. It's not really a PvP spec, but prot can surprise people with some Shield Slam bursts and BGs. You can have fun in BGs. Really wouldn't be that viable in arenas, and I'm sure there's some comps where it is, but it is definitely a more niche spec to play in PvP. The strengths of prot warriors in PvE are that it has, again, strong single target threat, excellent defensive cooldowns, and a very high skill ceiling, so it's very rewarding if you master playing it. As for its weaknesses, AoE tanking, very weak compared to Paladins. It requires really good gear for it to feel, you know, good and comfortable, and it has limited group utility compared to the other hybrid tanks. So in summary, PvE tanking for warriors, the classic tank that feels polished in TBC, that's your warrior, right? It feels a little bit more fleshed out than in vanilla. It's definitely going to be more fun to play. I actually think prot warrior in TBC feels really good from my personal opinion. But yeah, it's still fun, it's still reliable, and it's just no longer mandatory, right? Because you have the options of druids or prot paladins. For this next part, let's talk about everyone's favorite, the Fury Warrior, right? We're going to talk about PvE DPS first. It starts off pretty slow at level 70, but scales extremely well with gear. Like once you start getting armor penetration gear later on in the expansion, it goes out of control, kind of the same way that it did in vanilla once you got gear. By tier 6, Fury is back near the top of the meters. Dual wielding plus flurry plus bloodthirst is just insanely strong sustained DPS. Rage normalization means you don't go wild early, but gear fixes that fast. So once you start getting, like I said, that armor pen gear, you're going to start to feel more like your vanilla warrior that you know and love. And on top of that, there's just tons of great weapons available early on, like Storm Herald and the Lionheart Executioner. You're going to want to most likely be a blacksmith, of course. But let's move into the PvP side for Fury Warriors. It's definitely not top tier in Arena. It's very strong in World PvP and BGs, though, so you can be doing that. And with the addition of TBCs, this time around, we have dual talents. You could be Fury and have your arm spec for PvP if that's what you prefer. You could pressure healers with Mortal Strike debuff if spec'd arms as a hybrid. So you're going to want to switch to arms if you're focusing on PvP. But if you're out leveling in the world and you get trapped in some world PvP, or you want to just do some BGs as Fury, you absolutely can do that. The only thing with PvPing as Fury is that it lacks a lot of CC and control tools. It's really just a pure damage-focused spec. So for Fury's strengths, it has great scaling, strong cleave potential with Whirlwind. You bring Battle Shout and Rampage buffs to the raid. For weaknesses, it's very gear dependent. So early on, in those early raids, Karazhan, Gruul, Magtheridon, you're not going to be topping the meters like you were used to in vanilla. But as the expansion progresses, you're going to pretty quickly move towards the top. It needs some serious uptime, but the mobility is definitely still limited. It's vulnerable to roots and kiting for sure, but that's not that bad because, like I said, you're not going to be PvPing much as Fury. So in summary, Fury is kind of a late bloomer, monster DPS spec in raids. Early on, you're going to feel kind of weak, but as the expansion progresses, as you get gear, it's going to ramp up pretty quickly. But it's definitely not beginner friendly. It is rewarding if you love pure melee DPS and you want to master this class. It's not beginner friendly in the terms of if you're not a good warrior player, you are going to struggle, or especially early on. But if you learn it and get good at it, it's going to be very rewarding later. Next, we're going to talk about our arms warrior, and we're going to start off with PvE DPS. As I said before, it's outshined by Fury in later game raids, but it's still really solid early on. You have good raid utility with Blood Frenzy debuff, which basically gives plus 4% physical damage to the boss or whatever targets you're hitting. It has an easy rotation, but limited scaling compared to Fury. You're not going to scale as hard as arms if you're trying to play arms in PvE. But PvP is really where arms shines, right? It's one of the most iconic arena specs. You have Mortal Strike, which is super essential healing reduction buff. You're putting Mortal Strike on anyone, and it's reducing the healing they can take from their partner that's healing. If you're paired up with a healer, like a Priest, Paladin, Resto Druid, the synergy with Arms Warrior in Arena, especially in 2s, is out of control. Spell Reflect adds counterplay. You can make clutch moments against casters, which is really good. Intercept, Hamstring, Stuns. You have an insane amount of control in the arena or in the PvP setting as an Arms Warrior. So the Arms Warrior's strengths are that it has high burst and high control, right? This is definitely geared more towards PvP. You have Mortal Strike, again, another PvP focused ability, and you have solid synergy with almost every physical class in Arena. As for their weaknesses, though, you can get kited pretty easily. You definitely require some really good support from a healer in arenas, and you have absolutely no self-sustain outside of your big cooldowns, right? So you have no ways of really keeping yourself alive. You're kind of just an unstoppable juggernaut, and that's kind of how Warrior has always been, leading up to this point, right? Even in vanilla, without a pocket healer, Warrior definitely feels kind of lackluster in PvP. So in summary, you're still the face of melee PvP in TBC. You're an absolute wrecking ball. In the right hands with the right comp, Warrior dominates the scene. In raids, you bring key debuffs, but you lose top DPS as Fury until your gear starts to improve. But that's okay, because as I'm telling you guys, I played it last time around, as you go through the expansion and you get gear, it starts to feel really, really good. So the final verdict of should you play Warrior in the Burning Crusade? Warrior in TBC is just going to be, I guess the best way that I could put it is it's a very skill rewarding juggernaut or powerhouse type of class, right? You get good at it and you will love it. You're going to want to play Warrior if you have a deep mechanical mastery of stance dancing, timing, control. If you can master that stuff, you're going to love playing Warrior. If you want a class that scales insanely well with gear, you may not be the best early on, but you're going to scale like crazy later on. If you want to be like the backbone tank or the frontline bruiser in PvP, you're going to play Warrior. It's a very rewarding PvP class with insane burst potential when you play it right. And I can't stress this enough, guys. When you play it right, it is so much fun. But keep in mind, though, for warriors, you may have a little bit rougher of a leveling experience. You're not going to level as fast as, let's say, warlocks and hunters, obviously, but that goes for vanilla as well. You have no self-healing. You're very gear dependent, right? You need gear to shine in both PvE and PvP. It's not just a PvE thing. Kiting is one of your biggest weaknesses early on. You can get kited. I know that this time around, we're playing on servers that have a 50-50 population balance, so there's going to be quite a bit of world PvP, so make sure you're carrying FAPs if you're leveling a warrior out in the open world on Night Slayer. But overall, warriors start out slow, but they finish really, really strong in TBC. They're iconic. They're feared. They are just a rewarding class to master. You guys know my favorite class is warrior, always has been, and it's an absolute blast to play in Arena. I can't stress that enough. So let me know if this video helped you guys make your decisions. Drop a like if it did. Comment down below anything that I may have forgotten or anything that you want to know. Maybe I can help answer your questions. Come hang out with me. I stream on kick.com/hammerdance Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Right now, we're playing a little bit of Classic WoW. We're testing out New World. We got Arc Raiders coming up, so that's the stuff we're doing on stream right now. As soon as the TBC pre-patch comes out, though, we're going to be going pretty damn hard, on stream, obviously. So come follow me over on Kick, support me over there, and subscribe to the channel if you love Classic WoW just as much as me. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching or listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.